Okay, so to get started, you're gonna need, of course, your yarn, the color of the background that you have chosen, a crochet hook 5.0 millimeter, a pair of scissors, a measuring tape, and a yarn needle to weave in your ends. So now to get started, I'm going to be using, I love this yarn in ivory for my background color. Now for these tutorial purposes, I'm only gonna do this in a small swatch because I don't have a whole lot of room here to show you guys, but so it's just gonna be a little swatch. But the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna chain 83 with your background color. You're gonna do your slip knot and then chain 83. Now I'm just chaining a few here just to get a swatch going. Okay. Now, once you have, I'm gonna zoom it in some so you can see better what I'm doing here. All right, so once you've done your chain of 83, you're gonna skip this first chain and single crochet into that second chain, and then single crochet in each stitch across. And if you need any help with any of the stitches, you can check out my tutorials on how to do these stitches. I will post the link for them below. But you're just going to single crochet in every single chain all the way across to the end. And when you get to the end, you should have 82 single crochets. Another thing, make sure when you are doing your initial chain that you chain it a little loose, because you don't want that first row to be too tight, or else your work will twist up on you. And now, I mean, you can see mine's a little twisted here, and that's okay. It's gonna twist some regardless, just because of the stitch, but it'll straighten out and flatten out later on, and you know, and then you can always block it at the end as well. So when you get to the end of the row, you're gonna chain 1 and turn your work. All right. Now for row 2, you're gonna single crochet in that very first stitch right there. So like that, and then you're gonna just single crochet all the way across again. And this is the pattern for this background. You're going to do single crochets all the way across, back and forth, chaining one at the end of the row to turn until you have a background piece of 37 inches. And make sure you get in that last stitch. It's a little weird looking, a little funny looking, but just make sure you get in there. So continue doing your single crochets back and forth all the way across until you have your 37 inches of your background piece, and I will see you there. Okay, now you should have your 37 inches. Of course, mine's still just a little swatch, but once you get your 37 inches, you're going to take your scissors and cut your yarn, leave a long enough tail to sew in with your needle. You're going to yarn over and pull through and give it a tug, tie that off. And then we're going to take our needle and we're just going to thread it down through there, back through those stitches there. Like that. Don't pull it too tight. If you do, just kind of give it a tug back just so that it doesn't pull your stitches in and pull your background out of shape. So then you can go skip over that one there and then go back through them. That way that they get woven in good. Give it a tug back. And that's what you're, then you can just trim off that excess. And then do the same with your other tail. I'm just gonna weave it back and forth through some of these stitches down here. Okay. And go back through. Okay, make sure your stitches aren't pulled too tight. Trim off that excess. Now we're ready to put on our border color or the edging. So, and I'm going to be using this medium blue for that. So now you just put your hook in here in this corner right here, and if you start up here on this very top row, you can actually just go right into that stitch right there. And then you just pull your yarn through, drop your tail, give it a chain 1, snug it down a little, and then we're gonna go right back in that stitch, and we're gonna do a single crochet. Just like that. Okay, and then we are going to single crochet in every stitch across here, and I'm gonna just work my little short tail in there under my stitches. I'm just gonna work over the top of it. That way it saves me from having to weave it in later. We're just gonna single crochet all the way across the top here. All right, so go ahead and just single crochet all the way across, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. Okay, now that I'm at the end of the row over here, I'm at this corner here, and when you get to the corner, you're just gonna single crochet 3 times into every corner. So 3 single crochets in that corner, and that just helps you round it to go down this other side over here. Now when you are going down this raw side over here that doesn't have any stitches, you're just gonna go into the side here and try to get, you know, 2 loops of the side of the stitch on your hook when you're doing it. And we're just going to evenly single crochet down this edge. And what I like to do is I try to put 1 single crochet per row. So just gonna evenly stitch these single crochets down this raw edge so that it'll have a nice side of it all the way down your background piece. Just like that. Then when you get back to the corner down here, again, we're just going to put 3 single crochets all in that same spot. And that helps us round that corner. Then on the bottom, we're just going to crochet, single crochet all the way across in the bottom of that chain from where we started the initial piece of the background. So we're just going to do single crochets all the way across. There. coming up on a corner again. And when you get to that corner, you're just going to put, again, 3 single crochets all into that same stitch. See? Then on this side over here, again, you're just going to put a single crochet into the side of the stitch, all the way down it, evenly spacing them out. Like I said, try to go through the stitch. Make sure you try to get 2 loops on your hook. Can't always, but try to. Try not to go around the stitch. Sometimes you end up with a hole, but just get them in there however you can, as long as they're evenly spaced out. Okay, and then when you get back to your starting point where you put your first single crochet, we're going to put 2 single crochets in that same place because we already had 1 in there, and then we're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet. And it may be a little tight, but just stick your hook in there, bring up a loop, and slip stitch through there. Snug it down a little bit. Get your scissors, fasten off, and snug that down, and then you can weave in your ends. Like I said, you can block this if it won't lay completely flat, just to kind of, sometimes you can lay your hands on it in the places it's trying to curl up, and it'll, just the heat of it will kind of, heat of your hand will lay it down. Sometimes it doesn't, but and with this being this swatch, you can see that there's kind of, I stitch a little tight, so I kind of pulled the stitches a little there on this swatch, so be careful of that. Make sure you don't stitch too tight there, or you'll have some gaping holes there like I got here. Just try not to stitch too tightly there. But so once you get through with that, then you're gonna weave in that tail, and then you'll have your background piece. So next, we're going to work on our tabs that are going to go on the top of our background piece. That's what's going to let us hang this advent calendar up somewhere. So you're going to need your bead color, whatever color you've chosen for that. I'm using this medium blue. And you're going to need to make 2 of these. So we're going to do our slip knot and chain 39. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 38 and 39. Okay, now we're going to skip this first chain and go into the second and do a single crochet. Then we're going to single crochet all the way across. And when you get to the end, you will have 38 single crochets. This is very similar to the way we did the background piece. We're just going to be single crocheting all the way across, chain one and turning back and forth for these tabs, and you'll do it until your tab measures 2.5 inches. So when you have your tabs and you've single crocheted back and forth until they are 2.5 inches, I will catch up with you there. Okay, I have completed my 2.5 inches of single crochet rows back and forth. So now I am going to snip my yarn, fasten that off, and weave in those ends. Now, you also want to remember to make 2 of these so that we can sew them to the top of our background piece and have a way to hang our advent calendar. Okay, now we're going to start on the tree section. I'm going to be using this big twist in Hunter Green for it. Okay, we're just going to make our slip knot, and we're going to chain 2, and then in that second chain, not that first one right here, but this second one right here, we're going to single crochet 1 single crochet into that chain. Okay, then we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn it just like that. Then for the second row, we're going to put our hook in right through there into that single crochet from that row, and we're going to put 2 single crochets into that single crochet, and that is an increase. Then we're going to chain 1 and turn again, and we're going to put 2 single crochets into that very first single crochet, and then we're going to put 2 single crochets into that next single crochet. So now you should have 4 single crochets across. Then we're going to chain 1, turn our work. Now in this row, we're going to put 2 single crochets in that very first stitch. Pull me some yarn out here. Oh gosh, I got a knot. Ugh. Okay. So 2 single crochets in that very first stitch. Then we're going to put 1 single crochet in the second stitch, 1 single crochet in that third stitch, and then 2 single crochets in that last stitch. And that is going to be the repeat for this section of the tree. You're going to chain 1 and turn, put 2 single crochets in the first stitch, one single crochet in the next stitches all the way until you get to the last stitch. Then when you get to that very last stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets. And you're going to repeat this pattern, putting 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in all the stitches across, 2 single crochets in the last stitch, until you have a total of 34 stitches across. So go ahead and repeat this pattern, and I'll see you at the row where we have 34 stitches across. Now that I have gotten to my 34 stitches across, I am going to snip my yarn, fasten off there like that, and then I'm going to turn just like I would if I was still crocheting. Okay, and then so here, let me zoom back in some so you can see what I'm doing here. All right, so I'm going to count the tops of these stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to skip those. I'm going to put my hook right there in that 8th stitch. Right there. So I skipped that first 7. And then I'm going to get my yarn. I'm going to pull through like that. I'm going to do a chain 1. Then I'm going to go right back in that same stitch, and I'm going to do a single crochet in that same stitch. Okay, then I'm going to single crochet in the next 19 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and I'm crocheting over my short tail. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. So now if you go back and you count all the way across, you should have 20 total stitches there. And I'm just gonna snip off that little piece there where I crocheted over that. Okay, and then you're gonna leave the rest of these unworked. Okay, then we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Okay, and then we're gonna put 2 single crochets into that first stitch, and then 1 single crochet in every stitch across until you get to that last single crochet. And then you're going to put 2 single crochets in that very last stitch. So now you're just repeating that same pattern that we were doing before. You're going to repeat this again until you have 54 stitches all the way across. So I'll see you when we have 54 stitches across. Okay, now I have done until I have the 54 stitches across, and pretty sure you can tell by now we're crocheting the Christmas tree upside down. It starts at the point and it goes to the end. So again, here we're gonna snip our yarn and tie that off. And turn it just like we would for anything if we were still crocheting it. Okay, and then again, we're gonna skip those first 7 stitches. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to stick our hook right in that 8th stitch. And bring the yarn through and chain 1. Okay. Then we're going to go right back in that same stitch and do a single crochet. And if you've looked at the pattern, then you already know this whole project is pretty much compiled of single crochets. If you haven't, then I'm telling you, the whole pattern, this whole project is pretty much compiled of single crochet, almost. Okay, so now we're going to single crochet in the next 39 stitches, and I'm crocheting over my short tail so that I don't have to weave that in later. We're just going to crochet across in the next 39. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so go ahead and crochet across, and when you get to the end, you should have 40 single crochets across there, and I'll see you at the end of this row. So when you get to the end of the row, you should have 40 single crochets across, and you're going to have a remainder of 7 stitches unworked. And once again, we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and then in that very first stitch, we're going to put 2 single crochets. Just 1, 2, and then we're going to single crochet across till we get to that last stitch, and in that last stitch we're going to put 2 single crochets, and we're going to do this back and forth again until we reach the row where we have 74 stitches across. So continue on with this same increasing pattern with 2 single crochets in the first stitch, single crochet across, 2 single crochets in the last stitch until you have 74 stitches across, and I will see you there. Okay, so I have completed my rows until I have the 74 stitches across. Now, so as you can see, that's what the Christmas tree will look like after all of it has been completed. So we're going to snip the yarn and tie it off. And then we'll weave in these tails. And the Christmas tree is complete. So yeah, so that's what it looks like when it's turned up right. All right. Now, the next thing that we're gonna do is we're going to be doing the star for the top of the Christmas tree. So I am going to be using this color here, and this is Sun Gold. This is the color I'm going to be using for my star. Now, I will say, you're welcome to follow what the pattern has on here. But I'm actually going to do my star a little different. So you can do what I do, or you can follow the pattern on here. So I'm going to chain, or I'm going to do my slip knot. And then I'm going to chain 3. And then I'm going to half double crochet in that very first chain. Just like that. So you yarn over, go in, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through. That's 2. Okay, so we're gonna put 8 more half double crochets in that same spot. So we're gonna have 10 total. You won't count this chain 2 here at the beginning. It's 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. I get some more yarn. 8. 9. And 10. Okay. And I'll show you how to close up that hole and when we get through. So we're gonna skip this chain 2 here, and then we're going to join to the top of that first half double crochet with a slip stitch, just like that. All right, then we're gonna chain 2, okay, and then we're gonna go right back in that same place and do 2 half double crochets in that same place. Then we're gonna do that again in the next stitch. 2 half double crochets. And again in the next one. 2 half double crochets. We're gonna just repeat that all the way around. So when you get all the way around, you should have 20 half double crochets all the way around. And again, to join, we're gonna skip those chains and join with a slip stitch to the first half double crochet. Okay, Now, here's the part that I'm going to do different than what is in the pattern. So, you can pause me and continue on with the way that the pattern says to do the star points, or you can follow along with me and do what I'm doing. So, I'm going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Okay. So once you have your chain 6, we're going to skip this first chain, then we're going to go into the second and make a slip stitch. Just like that. Then into that next chain, we're going to do, let me get some yarn. We're going to do a single crochet. Then in the next stitch, we're going to half double crochet. Then in the next chain, we're going to do a double crochet. Then in that last chain there, careful not to miss it, this last chain here, we're going to do a treble crochet. So you wrap that yarn twice, go in that stitch, pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. So then we're going to skip 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches and then slip stitch into, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're gonna skip 3 stitches, I'm sorry, and slip stitch into the 4th stitch. So that's what it's going to look like when you get finished. Just like that. Okay. Let's do that again. So we're going to chain 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to skip that first chain and go into the second and make a slip stitch. Just like that. All right, then we're going to go into the next chain and do a single crochet. Into the next, a half double crochet. Into the next, a double crochet. And into the last, you're going to wrap your yarn twice and do a treble crochet. Then we're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch into that 4th stitch. Now you have 2 points, just like that. Okay, so you're going to repeat this 3 more times around, and I will meet you back right here. Okay, I have completed my last point, and so to join it, I'm going to skip these 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to slip stitch right there in that very first stitch where we started our first point for the star. So you slip stitch just like that, and there is your star. Okay, so we will snip that yarn, fasten that off, and weave in those tails. Now, right here, I'm going to show you how you can close up that hole a little in the middle of your star. So you're going to take your needle and you're going to weave it around some of these stitches just like this. Some may be a little hard to get into. All right, and then you're just gonna pull it through like that. And then you can take it on around. Oops, my yarn split on me. Let's try that again. Okay, bring that on through there, and you see, closes up that hole. And then, just to make sure that it doesn't come back undone, you can weave back the other way just a little. Just like this. And then snip off that excess, and there you have it. And that closes up your middle hole. Then you can just weave in that tail there, and we have our star for the top of our tree. So this is going to conclude this video portion of the crochet along. Now on the next video, we will be putting our tree on our background, our star on our background. We'll be putting our buttons on our tree, and we will also be attaching the tabs to the top, and we'll be working on the pockets and attaching them to our background, and we'll also make our first 2 ornaments of the crochet along that will go on our tree or in our pockets, whichever. So stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next video.